London's most famous sights, the historic city that 25 million tourists visit every year. But there are sights no one ever sees, until now. On the trail of the world's first serial killer, Jack the Ripper.
He slashed her throat, killed her instantly. She's on her back.
The secret side of London's red light district. An amazing haunted house in a royal palace where you can stay for just $30 a night.
And there was a blue figure, and this seemed to melt into the wall.
And Stalking the Stars, London's secret celebrity hangouts.
Jack Nicholson doesn't seem to have any favourite restaurant. He's at all of them. I mean, we go to places with Jack that I didn't even know existed.
The London Eye. At 450 feet, it's the world's biggest Ferris wheel and London's latest tourist attraction. On the edge of the River Thames, it gives passengers a fantastic view across London's greatest landmarks, and even a distant glimpse of Buckingham Palace. Most of the time, ordinary people can't get inside the Queen's home. Only a privileged few get invited further than the palace gates. But for those in the know, there's another way to see over the palace walls. The Park Lane Hilton has an astonishing secret it doesn't advertise. For $4,800 a night, guests can book the Apsley Suite on the 27th floor. And this is what they get to see. A spectacular view of the Queen's private garden. The 40-acre garden is a green oasis in the busy city, with 431 species of plants and 67 species of birds. Here, Her Majesty loves to walk her favorite corgi dogs, and other royals enjoy playing tennis or relaxing by the 3-acre lake. Unsurprisingly, the Queen was not amused about the building of the hotel.
It is perfectly true that the Queen did everything possible to stop the Hilton from going up and up and up. The Queen, as far as we know, has never been to the Hilton Hotel, nor is she ever likely to go, even though she's visited practically every hotel in that area, including Claridge's, the Dorchester, and so forth.
But a secret view of the Queen's garden isn't enough for some. Intruder Michael Fagan twice scaled the palace walls into the garden. Amazingly, the second time he even found himself face to face with the Queen when he broke into her bedroom.
One of the interesting aspects was that the world found out that she and Prince Philip shared separate bedrooms. In the aristocracy and in the world of royal families, this is normal, but it did surprise the world.
The Queen herself was stunned when top fashion designer and grandmother of punk, Vivienne Westwood, went to collect the Queen's birthday honor. She caused uproar by revealing that she had no underwear on. It's something Westwood makes a habit of. On a previous brush with royalty, she wore another outfit which left very little to the imagination. But the palace invitations keep coming. 200 feet below London, this is the city's subway, known as the Tube. There are an amazing 300 miles of tunnels snaking their way underneath London. And this subterranean world harbors incredible secrets. Under the sidewalks are ancient rivers, crypts, and cellars dating back to Roman times. But to enter such hidden places, you need the right guide. Roger Morgan has spent 25 years researching underground London. This door leads to Down Street subway station. The last train stopped here in 1932. The station was mothballed just as it was. Old signs are still there, only now the trains are a distant rumble. But by 1939, Down Street Station was back in use as the Second World War and the Blitz began. Wave after wave of German bombers destroyed large parts of London. tube stations became emergency shelters. Down Street was the executive headquarters for National Railways. There were offices, a canteen, and bunk beds for 80 staff to sleep here. Several nights, Britain's wartime leader, Winston Churchill, stayed in the executive bedroom, and amazingly, his bathtub still remains.
We imagine Churchill lying in this bath with his cigar, ruminating. Wallowing like a walrus, I think was the description of one of his other bath episodes.
And one night, while bombs fell above ground, down below, Churchill and his team were being entertained in remarkable luxury, according to a wartime diary.
Caviar, almost unobtainable. Perrier Jouet 1928, 1865 brandy, and excellent cigars. After dinner, the Defence Committee met.
Another of Morgan's finds is this strange building, leading to underground tunnels now used for storing old film and music. Only its name, the Eisenhower Center, gives a clue to the amazing events that once happened here. During World War II, it was the command center for the leader of Allied troops, Dwight D. Eisenhower. In the run-up to D-Day in June 1944, the 2 miles of tunnels 100 feet below ground were home to 8,000 US troops, ready to set off for France. It was essential the Germans never found out about the troops. The key was making sure nobody knew they were there. So the men would use a secret door connecting the bunker to a subway station where they could slip unnoticed into the crowds.
This is the door into the London Transport tube station of Goodge Street. Beyond this door there are ordinary passengers walking back and forth and coming down a staircase from the Goodge Street lifts, little knowing that we are standing on the other side of this door and that there's this huge labyrinth below them.
Well, you know, I've always been fascinated by being in places where high drama or high emotion has taken place. It's almost as though it soaks into the walls. And by being there in the actual place, you can sort of receive a vague echo of it back from the walls.
Whilst the Americans and British conducted their wartime campaigns in secret, the French ran at least part of theirs from a pub. The leader of the French government in exile, General Charles de Gaulle, held meetings in a small room above the French house in Soho. Here he also wrote perhaps his most famous speech. A copy still hangs on the wall. After the break, secrets of the Ripper's most grisly killing.
The whole body's skinned. The only thing left on the body, unfortunately difficult to make out, is the eyes.
And a secret operating room reveals the horrors of early surgery.
Most surgeons took about 3 to 4 minutes. But Robert Liston could take a patient's leg off in 28 seconds.
10 o'clock at night, half a mile from downtown, the streets of Whitechapel are quiet. Over 100 years ago, this area was the haunt of the world's first serial killer, the man who became known as Jack the Ripper. In the space of 10 weeks, he murdered and horribly mutilated 5 prostitutes.
Okay, so, as you know, all the victims were prostitutes.
Paul Mansfield is an expert on the Ripper. Tonight, he's taking a small group on the killer's trail, revealing the secrets behind the hideous crimes.
Just down below on the floor, basically here would be where Catherine Eddowes was found. He slashed her throat, killed her instantly. She's on her back. He then stuck a knife into the actual vagina, pulled it up through the stomach to the breastbone, where he would pull the stomach out of the victim and throw it over her right-hand shoulder as she lay on the floor down there.
Jack the Ripper was never caught or even identified. The police file remains open to this day. Every amateur sleuth develops a theory, but prime suspects include the Duke of Clarence, Queen Victoria's grandson. It's claimed he used to visit prostitutes in the area, got one of them pregnant, then went on a killing spree to cover up his shame. James Maybrick was a cotton broker from Liverpool who often visited textile businesses in the Whitechapel area. When he died, he was carrying a pocket watch engraved with the initials of the Ripper's victims. Or could the Ripper have been lawyer Montague John Druitt? He committed suicide just after the fifth murder took place, and from that moment, coincidentally or not, the murders stopped. London, a city full of hotels. But where's the best place to stay? The Ritz, famous for its afternoon teas? The Dorchester, favored by Sylvester Stallone, Michael Jackson, and Nelson Mandela? Or the Savoy, where a double room starts at around $700 a night? In fact, one of the best places to stay isn't a hotel at all. It's a 500-year-old royal palace, and the real secret is, it costs just $30 a night. This is Hampton Court Palace on the outskirts of London. Henry VIII was the first king to live here in 1528. It has 1,000 rooms, and the grounds are famous for their magnificent gardens. Tucked away in the heart of the palace is this elegant house, originally built for King George I.
What we have gathered is that it was built in 1718 and that it originally comprised a large, substantial two-story kitchen in the middle.
The house is rented out by the Landmark Trust, a little-known charity which offers vacations at some of Britain's most historic and unusual houses.
I can guess that visitors are rather thrilled by the chance to stay in one of the really rather secreted and hidden parts of the palace. I think there's no doubt that there is a sense of privilege coming to stay at Hampton Court. One is treated like a king, perhaps, for a day or two.
But the palace also has some less welcome guests. All 6 of Henry VIII's wives stayed here, and it's where one, Catherine Howard, is said to have committed adultery. Henry found out and ordered her execution. Learning she was to lose her head, Catherine ran down the haunted gallery, screaming for mercy. It's claimed her ghost still haunts the palace.
On one occasion, I found the stubble in my face was standing on end, and I had shaved. Absolutely fantastic, cold experience. And I remember thinking, I wonder. And I glanced to this doorway to my left, this arched doorway, and there was a blue figure. I just glanced, and if one does a second glance, and it seemed to melt into the wall in true storybook style. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing.
And there's no extra charge for the ghosts. London has more parks than any other city in the world, but the most remarkable gardens are one of London's best-kept secrets. These gardens are in the heart of the city, near Princess Diana's former home. But from the streets, they're invisible, because they're an amazing 100 feet above the ground on the roof of this block. Even though the city's largest park is only minutes away, these gardens were created 60 years ago, the dream of an executive who ran the department store below. Everything has to be carried up through the building, including the 7 tons of compost and peat added to the soil each year. It's actually only 18 inches deep. Tree roots have to be pruned to keep them from growing through the roof into the offices below. Even in a city famous for its wet weather, the skies don't provide enough water, so it comes from wells sunk under the building below.
People are just overwhelmed, I think. They just can't believe that they're on a roof, which is understandable. Some days I can't, even though I've been here 12 years.
Most people wouldn't even know the gardens are there, one of London's best hidden and most delightful secrets. The secrets of a shocking murder are about to be revealed. It's Jack the Ripper's final and most gruesome killing. Expert Paul Mansfield is on the trail.
The whole body's skin. The only thing left on the body, unfortunately difficult to make out, is the eyes. Nothing else. The flesh is on the table here. Okay.
This remarkable photograph is the first ever taken by police at a crime scene.
Now, believe it or not, the police were so desperate to catch the murderer, they even took a photograph of the victim's eyes. Why? To catch the reflection of the last thing she saw before she died, the reflection in her eyes of the murderer.
The photograph, of course, revealed nothing, and the Ripper's identity was safe. But some things never change. Just down the road, the prostitutes of Whitechapel still ply their trade. An old London church, an astonishing secret. It was once part of a hospital. In the roof, bricked up and forgotten for a century, historians made a spine-chilling discovery. Perhaps the world's first operating room. Surgery then was primitive. Anesthetics were unknown. Like today, many patients were the victims of road accidents. But then, the injuries caused by horses and heavy carts were even worse. Spectators were invited to watch operations being performed on the wooden bench below.
If you look at the table closely, you'll notice that all along the edge of the table, there are lots of nicks and cuts in the wood. Now, they're there because when a surgeon was performing an operation, because he had no anaesthetics, he would actually have to perform that operation as quickly as he possibly could. In the case of an amputation, what has happened is the surgeon has gone through that limb with his saw with such speed and such ferocity and such enthusiasm. He's actually gone straight through the limb, forgotten to stop, and continued through to the table underneath.
Back in the 1820s, one of the leading surgeons of the day, Robert Liston, prided himself on his reputation for being the fastest cutter in town.
He would stand there, knife in hand, and he would actually turn to his audience and he would shout, "Time me, gentlemen, please." Most surgeons took about 3 to 4 minutes, but Robert Liston could take a patient's leg off from start to finish in 28 seconds.
Hygiene was crude and often deadly. Only half the patients survived.
All they would have done at the end of the operation is they would have simply gone down the road to the River Thames, got a nice bucket of dirty water out the river, brought it back here, and used that to clean down the operating table, just to get rid of the worst of the blood and gore for the next patient. According to one student at the time, those coats that the surgeons wore would have been stiff and stinking with pus and blood.
The surgeons kicked a box of sawdust round the floor to soak up the gushing blood. But there was always a worry the blood would seep through to the church below.
And it would have been quite likely that there would have been Victorian parishioners down there singing hymns, praying, and understandably, they do not wish to look up and see a blood stain gradually spreading across the ceiling of the church.
In 1828, London's University College was founded by philosopher Jeremy Bentham. Although he's over 250 years old, he's attended college meetings ever since. Before his death, Bentham ordered his skeleton to be dressed in his favorite clothes and put on display for all time. His head was to be mummified, but the process went wrong. This is a wax replacement. Coming up, the secret side of London's red light district. And the secrets of the magic circle, never to be revealed.
So obviously, if you're in America, you can spend the American dollar bills. But over here in England, you're only allowed to spend English pounds.
London doesn't just have some of the world's most gruesome sights. Elegant works of art are sold at auction houses like Sotheby's and Christie's, where Vincent van Gogh's sunflowers fetched a record price of nearly $40 million. But there's an amazing trick to hunting out the best antique bargains, hidden in the run-down, unfashionable district of Bermondsey.
Guess what's in there? I'll give you a pound.
A sword.
A sword, the man says.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant.
The Friday morning market here is a secret even to most Londoners. In fact, police are among the more frequent visitors. As recently as 1994, there was an old law nicknamed the Thieves' Charter. Anything bought between sunrise and sunset was the legal property of the purchaser, whether it was stolen or not. When burglars took almost 300 antiques from one house in London, 71 of them were later found on one stall alone at Bermondsey Market. Picking up a bargain means getting here early.
Bermondsey is where the dealers go, and every Friday morning throughout the year, from about 3 o'clock in the morning when the most energetic of them set up their stalls, from 3 o'clock in the morning, this is where they all are.
David Benedictus is a novelist and playwright who, over 30 years, has got his hobby of antique hunting down to a fine art.
How much is a gramophone?
To you, £200.
200.
To anybody else, 300.
How can you tell whether the Staffordshire dogs are real or not?
Very difficult question.
Yeah.
You just know.
You do have to be a little bit careful at Bermondsey, as at every other antique market. You may find something which you are told is authentic, and you find it is a reproduction.
Those are over £300, and the phony ones you can probably buy for £12 a pair.
It says spoons this way, so maybe we should follow the arrow and see what we find. And here they are. Silver spoons, one of the great bargains you can still buy. If you've got very limited funds and you want to buy something pretty and old and useful, then you can never go wrong with a little silver coffee spoon. A fiver, it's mine. Well, that's a special price for me. So £5 for me is about $8, is it? Something like that. Mm-hmm. So that isn't very much money. And as a souvenir of something which is old and authentic and attractive, I think that's a good bargain.
Isn't that fantastic?
The atmospheres of markets depend on the characters of the people who deal in them, and these people are always freelance spirits who have their own eccentricities and characteristics. So I don't think anything much changes, and I think Dickens or Shakespeare would have recognised in Bermondsey Market today something very similar to what they experience themselves.
There's an even more mysterious collection at London's Magic Circle. A club only open to the world's greatest illusionists. All members have to take an oath swearing never to give away their secrets. In recent years, the circle has partly lifted the veil of secrecy, opening a center for the magic arts.
Does anyone have a ring that I could borrow, like a signet ring, a wedding band, or something of that nature? Yes. Perfect, thank you so much. How long have you had this ring?
8 years.
8 years, okay. And during that time, have you ever had it polished? Because I do a free metal polishing service on a Wednesday afternoon. And you look fantastically glad to hear that. Just a little bit of metal polish and a little bit of heat, but not too much heat, because too much heat is no good for the gold in your ring, okay?
Yeah.
Magic is part fantasy, part detective story, isn't it? The fantasy side is the fun side. The detective story side is how is it actually done.
Car keys. Tell me, do any of these have a familiar ring?
If you take half of that away, the how is it done, then I think you lose half of the value of magic. So we as members of the Magic Circle are absolutely certain we must not give away magic. So we sign a pledge when we join the Magic Circle to keep our secrets.
Sometimes when I do this, people think maybe I use my sleeves. Could I ask you to hold onto my left wrist to make sure nothing goes up my sleeve? And could you hold onto my right wrist to make sure nothing goes down my sleeve? Mm-hmm. And keep your eye on the 2 coins. Here goes the second one. And if you listen really carefully, you'll actually hear it arrive. That was coin number 2.
On display here, magicians' apparatus, like these early ventriloquist dummies. But the center's greatest secrets are the illusions of the legendary escapologist, Harry Houdini.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Though based in Hollywood, Houdini thrilled crowds in London with some of his most daring escapes.
He was the greatest act of its kind. He could fill any theatre, and he had toured all over the world. He was never afraid to accept a challenge. Houdini did not use fake handcuffs, he used the real thing, and he was able to escape from them all. It has never been known that he had a failure at any time.
This was Houdini's most dangerous trick, the water torture.
Here you will see Harry Houdini was suspended in a tank of water. Upside down, he was lowered into it by a hoist and shackled and locked. The whole cabinet has locks on it, and after a short time, he would escape from it, He was soaking wet, of course, but he escaped from it. It was a very dangerous trick, so dangerous, in fact, that he had guards with axes ready to smash the cabinet if he was in there for an undue time.
So obviously, if you're in America, you can spend the American dollar bills. But over here in England, you're only allowed to spend English pounds.
Well, I would think the appeal of magic is that when you watch it, you not only enjoy seeing it, but when you have seen it, your mind continues to think as the manner in which it was done. The only thing we won't tell them how it all works. That is our secret, and we keep it.
London's financial center, a square mile of skyscrapers. But 300 years ago, this was still a residential neighborhood. Remarkably, a few streets of old houses survive. Among them, a secret house few discover. Number 18 Falgate Street. Beyond the front door is a different world.
It's 1724. King George I is on the throne of England. Let us go back into that time.
Open to the public just twice a month, the house is like a time machine transporting visitors back to 1724, 8 years before the birth of George Washington. The idea is that the family who live here, the Jarvises, have just left the room as you enter.
The family is all around you. You won't see them, but you hear them. You can smell the food they've just eaten. You can see the apple, which is about to be finished. Glasses of wine are half drunk. And hopefully the visitor starts thinking, who am I to sort of intrude on these people who have just left the rooms? This house is not a museum. It's got nothing to do with antiques, nor interior design, but it's got everything to do with atmosphere.
But in fact, there never was a Jarvis family. And all their possessions have been assembled over 20 years by a Californian, the late Dennis Sievers. Sievers was passionate about making the house a truly memorable experience. Talking and children are banned, so that visitors can concentrate on absorbing the extraordinary atmosphere.
Well, the idea in most of the rooms is, but especially in the smoking room, is that when you step into the room, you step into a painting. Everything you see in the painting in 2 dimensions, you actually see around you in 3. The punch bowl right in front of you. It's the same punch bowl as in the painting. The candle is about to die out. It's just died out in the painting. There you are, everything is around you.
Remarkably, the house cost just $800 to create, much of it from junk painstakingly remade and restored. Upstairs, the rooms have moved into the 19th century, and the mood changes. It's like a scene from a Charles Dickens novel.
Father drinks, mother is in despair, there's not much to eat. And hopefully, you start thinking, and you really step back in time. And that's what we try to achieve there. Opening up your senses. Let your senses be the guide.
After the break, how to fix a private visit to the home of a British lord.
Finest, it's certainly my favourite.
And what Madonna did when she met this photographer.
Her bodyguard hit me so hard, I was hearing bells for a week.
Another building with a secret. From the outside, it's an old power station. Inside, it's the latest of London's art galleries, the Tate Modern. Amongst its collection of post-1900 art are works by Picasso, Matisse, and Andy Warhol. London has 70 galleries, but they don't contain all the city's treasures. Amazingly, many great works of art are secret, hidden away in private homes. But there's a surprising way to get to see them for free. This internet website is run by the British government's tax department. Anyone who inherits art of great family importance can keep it without paying inheritance tax on one condition. They must allow the public to see it.
Paintings particularly, there's a lot of them. over 7,000 items, of which 2,500 in London, nearly. Things like we've got some paintings by Joshua Reynolds, a famous English portraitist. There is a single Picasso on the list, which is actually in Edinburgh, and a number of other very famous artists, including modern artists like Kandinsky, and some traditional artists like Gainsborough, Monet, Renoir, and so on.
Art enthusiast Jeff Jenkins is a big fan of William Dobson, an 18th century portrait painter. Dobson's portrait of Sir Charles Lucas is now owned, 11 generations of the family on, by Lord Lucas of Crudwell, who's agreed to show it to Jenkins. It's also a rare opportunity to visit a British lord. The tax law means he has to allow the public into his private home to view his collection of fine art.
To show you is this portrait here of Sir Charles Lucas, which is a wonderful picture, and I think is one of Dobson's finest. It's certainly my favourite. He is the origin of my title. He never had it himself, but he's the one who earned it, if you can put it that way. He was one of Charles I's soldiers, and a very rough and disreputable soldier he was too. I think you can probably see that in his face. He was very much a guerrilla fighter. So this is a picture that I'm equally fond of. It's a Reynolds, not a great Reynolds, but a very fine one. Certainly a nicer person than Sir Charles, but he's not someone that I really know much about. He's a very fine picture. He's someone you can look at and enjoy for a long time from that point of view. It's a great pleasure to be surrounded by pictures of members of my family, of people who mean something when I look back into the history of my family. And I think it also makes it much more interesting for members of the public who see them, that they can be put in context of who they are and what they did, and be given some sort of personality, which they would never have if they were just hung on the wall of an art gallery somewhere.
Where can you buy a David Hockney painting for just $50? Every year, London's Royal College of Art holds an exhibition of postcard art, but the artists' names are kept secret from buyers until they've made their purchases. Most are by art students, but a few are the work of famous artists and celebrities, like rock star David Bowie. This is Soho, the bustling heart of London's entertainment scene. Among the restaurants, bars, pubs, and clubs, there are probably more secrets here than anywhere else in the city. Down narrow streets and alleyways, sex is big business, though the police and city authorities have tried to clean it up.
No way did you. No way did you. No, there is no way that you did.
Clubs are frequently raided.
Excuse me, you in charge here?
Who paid you your money?
And just refuse to answer any more questions.
Now, alongside what remains of the sleaze, Soho has some of London's most stylish and chic restaurants. It's the coolest place in the city to eat, and the place to see and be seen. But seeking out the best restaurant isn't easy unless you have the right guide. Gordon Ramsay is the king of London's chefs. He's become famous not only for spectacular dishes, but for a fiery temper.
What did I say? What did I say?
Any restaurant that impresses a hard taskmaster like Ramsay must be good. But, from the outside at least, his favorite haunt is a surprise. The new Diamond restaurant in Chinatown is a far cry from its trendy Soho neighbors.
It's a very nifty little secret getaway, especially for chefs. It has a very special menu called the chef's menu, which is not really there for the public. Very interesting food, delicate food, beautifully cooked. Hi guys.
Entrees include steamed scallops and crispy seaweed. But with his inside knowledge, Ramsay's choice is the soft-shelled crab.
They're coated in a very light batter and shallow fried, and seasoned again with peppers and red chilies.
For main course, Ramsay and his fellow chefs choose crisp iceberg lettuce filled with marinated mincemeat.
One of my favourite dishes is some wonderful steamed scallops. They're not dredged scallops, they're hand-dived scallops. So they're really nice, fresh, incredibly succulent steamed scallops with ginger. And we're just going to macerate them with a little soy sauce on top. Thank you.
With some sauce for you.
No, not yet, not yet. I'm not yet. Okay. Put them down, you'll cool them down too quickly. We'll put the sauce on. Thank you. Plus, you always put too much on there as well.
But even on his night off, Ramsay can't keep out of the kitchen.
I've never actually cooked and always moving it around as well. Okay.
He tries his hand at Singapore noodles.
Thank you.
And the verdict?
That's delicious. Can I come and spend my day off here? One day. He's not going to shout at me, is he? When he gets upset, does he stick clothes pegs on my nose? Excellent. Chef, thank you very much indeed.
Still to come on the celebrity trail, where to bump into the stars.
Jack Nicholson doesn't seem to have any favourite restaurant. He's at all of them. I mean, we go to places with Jack that I didn't even know existed.
And we track down a hidden gem, London's very own Dockyard Doris.
One Sunday over the lea, my fella done it to me.
London has been here for more than 2,000 years. Time has left secret treasures, still to be found buried in the mud of the River Thames. The people who find them are called mudlarks. They operate like a secret society, shunning publicity. But one mudlark has agreed to reveal all.
There's always a chance. That's the great thing about mudlarking. You know, you can go several weeks without finding anything, possibly, but there is that chance that you might find something really special. I think that's what drives people on.
Tim Miller has been a mudlark since he was 10.
This kind of thing I just found lying on the surface, that's a medieval arrowhead. You know, it makes you wonder what that's doing in the river, whose body that fell out of. That's, you know, it's 500, 600, 700 years old. You get a lot of cutlery, basically, which doesn't sound very exciting, but when it's 300 years old, you know, it's nice to find it. This is a 16th century knife. It's got a bone handle there.
The pride of Miller's extraordinary collection are his coins.
These, for me, are always the star finds. This one in particular is in such lovely condition, and it's Henry VIII. It was before he put on the weight, so he's in profile there, and it's a sort of slimmed-down version. That's about 400 years old, 450 years old, and that's, you know, to find it in that condition with the shield and everything so visible is a lovely find.
So, will the Thames give up more of its secrets on this dig?
I mean, London's spread out now, but in the old days it was all concentrated there. So if you think 2,000 years of history in 2 miles, that's a lot of gear. Something there. Beeping away.
Miller again strikes it lucky.
That's it. It's lead.
This latest find adds to more than 300 pieces of buried treasure which he's found in his 20 years as a mudlark.
Nice. That's a lead token, 17th century they are. It's quite a crude design, but in fact, the cruder they were, the later they were. It's about 200, 300 years old. The feeling of digging up something that hasn't been touched by anyone in London for 300 odd years, I mean, I don't think that can be beaten, really.
Behind this old wall in a rundown district of London, America's Liberty Bell was cast with the inscription, "Proclaim liberty throughout all the land." In its 500 years, the Whitechapel Bell Foundry has also made Big Ben, the main bell of the British Parliament. Unfortunately, Ben cracked, leading to a deeper bong. London's fashionable restaurants, hotels, and bars attract some of the world's most famous faces. They're also a magnet for the paparazzi. Mark Saunders has spent much of his career in the press pack trailing the every move of Princess Diana. These days, he has his sights set on celebrities out and about on the town.
Obviously, scandal sells. So if you can get, you know, I don't know, some major star out with someone he shouldn't be out with, going home or something with them and spending the night, that's scandal. And for some reason, people love that sort of thing.
Saunders' nighttime vigil begins at around 9 o'clock and continues into the early hours. He tours the likely hotspots, peering through the windows to stalk his victims.
I reckon that's a blonde chick here.
Other leads come from his network of sources.
Contact can be a valet parker or a maitre d', taxi driver, limo driver. Even, beggars on the streets can, for some reason they all have mobile phones these days.
Princess Diana's favorite restaurant, San Lorenzo, is still one of Saunders' main hangouts, along with celebrity restaurant The Ivy and trendy bars.
Madonna tends to be the most popular target in London because she does like to go out. But any of the visited American stars will always head to places like San Lorenzo or the Ivy. Cindy Crawford loves the Ivy for some reason. I mean, I've seen Pacino, Hoffman, they've all sort of been at either the Met or the Atlantic, but it's more the younger crowd. If Leonardo was in town, he would head for the Met, I think. Jack Nicholson doesn't seem to have any favourite restaurant. He's at all of them. I mean, it's impossible with him. We go to places with Jack that I didn't even know existed.
But chasing fame can have its price.
Madonna, I photographed in Hyde Park about 10 years ago, and her bodyguard hit me so hard. I was here in Bells for a week, and I fell down. And what I was most surprised about was that Madonna was concerned. She wasn't like celebrities normally are.
For the inside track on celebrities, this is the man to follow. London is the home of the pub. There are thousands of them, traditional or modern in style. But impossible to find in any guidebook, the Seabright Arms is a remarkable throwback to the days of vaudeville. And its star is an even better kept secret. Meet Dockyard Doris.
One Sunday over the lea, my fella done it to me. Well, he done it once, then he done it twice, and then he had the flipping cheek to say it wasn't nice.
It's called Dockyard Doris's Variety Night, where we have comedy, singers, special acts, and it's quite unique.
It's worth waiting for. One Sunday over the lea.
You wouldn't find this anywhere else in London, or I think in Great Britain, where they put on a regular variety show every Thursday with no door charge and different acts.
The fabulous Mickey Driver!
Mickey Driver, we call him Mr. Musical, because there isn't a song he doesn't know on the musical, and he sings it with such love, which is marvellous.
I've got a little donor, I'm about to own her, she's gonna marry me. At first she said she couldn't, and then she said she wouldn't, and then she answers, you just wait and see.
Do you like the river dance? You do? All right.
Every variety always has to have a special act, and tonight we've got the best, which is Morris Kachuk. And Morris Kachuk does a wonderful tap dance, and he is a tap dancer of tremendous talent. And I've worked with him so many times, and each time I just marvel at the dexterity of the feet.
Round we go.
And it's like the old traditional East End pubs used to be years ago, because that's where variety started, in the pubs.
Put your hands together and welcome the fabulous Cox twins and Pauline!
Topping the bill are two legendary showbiz veterans, Freddie and Frankie Cox. In their 80th year, the twins have been treading the boards most of their lives.
It's definitely a throwback to the old days. This is variety in its top form.
The twins are living proof that though on the surface London looks like any other city, it harbors the unusual, the surprising, and everywhere you look, secrets. There are many more just waiting to be revealed.
Ha, ha, we jumpy as can be. We look alike, we dress alike, and we do everything alike. Ha, ha, funny men are we. Bum, dum, dum, dum.